I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome everyone to the Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 Lincoln County Commission meeting. It's nice to see everyone here today and nice for those that are joining us online and so forth. We appreciate your interest. To begin with, is there any public input before I ask for board action to approve the agenda? If not, could I entertain a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and a second by Aaron's and Landine. Any discussion? Not, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Poppins,
Yes.
Landine,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes. Next, is there any public input on the action to approve the consent agenda items?
So
If
moved.
not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Landine, second by Schmidt. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Poppins,
Yes.
Landine,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Gibbon.
Yes. Motion carried. All right, let's move on then to our regular business. Item number 1, Mr. Rasmussen, public hearing and resolution in regard to creating tax increment district number 10.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. Steve Rasmussen, your Commission Administrative Officer, and I want to introduce Todd Meyer-Henry, who's going to provide some revenue projections for the tax incremental district number 10, and he is here from Meyer-Henry Sargent LLP. Come on up, sir.
Today, this is the second part of how to create a tax increment district. I see on your agenda you have a resolution creating the district, and usually either at this time or at a future date, you also approve a project plan which tells the public what is the maximum amount you intend to commit of other taxing districts' monies, tax revenues in this tax increment district. What you basically do at this hearing for this resolution is that you set the boundaries, give it a name, give it a date of creation, and also create your tax increment fund into which your tax increment revenues would go. So that's the first resolution, and that's it with this first resolution creates it. And I can answer any questions if you have.
Okay, any questions by this commission at this time? I guess not. I guess at this stage, are there any proponents, I guess, correct, that want to speak on this item? And again, we're going to try to limit this to 30 minutes and 3 minutes per speaker, but go ahead, proponents.
Hi, I'm Craig Lloyd with Lloyd Companies, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I started in this in 2006, so I was a lot younger then, had a little hair. But we've been working on this for many years. Jim Schmidt has helped us work through the state, the highway department, through many different changes in the highway department, going back to Darren Berkowitz, and then he passed away, I don't know, about 5-6 years ago. And then we've gone through 4 or 5 changes in the federal highway commissions. And that has been probably the thing that's slowed this thing up the most. We've had about 5 people that are really, in the real world, are competitors. And they all came together. And to fast track this back, and I'm going to say about 2010, we're going to fast track this to get it open by 2019 and 2020. Well, we're behind. So we all put in $4 million, not all, the group put in $4 million, which, to my knowledge, is the first time that's ever happened in the state of South Dakota, where competitors get together, come to a agreement that we're going to work together to try to create a partnership to help 85th Street. I've been involved in one other interchange and partly involved in another interchange. The other interchange was 26th Street, where Walmart is today, Home Depot, all that. And then Lake Lorraine across the street was done by the Friesens. That also took a collaboration of us and the Friesens to drive that interchange. And then Benson Road, up by the sports complex, we developed a lot of where Premier Bank Card is, and a lot of the stuff we've helped Sanford with their sports complex. And then we've done Dolly Farm. The time it took us from the time that we started the process of 26th Street to the time we opened, that was about a 4-year period. I just told you how long it's taken so far. We developed that from the time that opened, the interchange. It took us 5 years to get about 90% of that development completed. And I've handed out all the assessed valuations, not only for Meadows on the River, but I took the liberty of the assessed valuations over Lake Lorraine. Sorry, I got a lung disease. It prevents me from talking real good. But that took 5 years. Lake Lorraine, for where they're at today, is 7 years. Dolly Farm started in 2005. 2008, we all know what happened, major recession. We had all that land spoken for on the first phase. 2008 came. The only target in the United States built in 2008 was at Dolly Farm. The only theater built in 2008 was at Dolly Farm. All the other people that said they wanted to be there either went broke or went out of business or had a change of business plans. But it took us from 2005 to where we're at today, and we got 12 acres left out of 360.
Sir, I'll give you about a minute if you could wrap up, please.
Okay, sorry. The assessed valuations there of Lake Lorraine and Meadows is $84 million. And that's all done in a short period of time. One of the questions was, how long is it going to take you? Right now, I could tell you that as soon as the interchange goes in, we are going to start apartment development. Paradigm has already started one, and we've got some retail and a hotel lined up to get started as soon as we can see the thing going in, which would be right around $25 million in assessed valuation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other proponents like to speak on this? Please state your name and address. I know most of you probably know that, but
Good morning. Mark Nordsey.
Morning.
Sioux Falls, Lincoln County. I live on 85th Street, and I'm looking forward to this interchange being put in place. And I'm so glad that people had the vision and are being bold instead of sitting on the sidelines waiting for us to get an overpass instead of an interchange. And the time that this has taken has been long. The partnerships that have been developed have been immense, and it's important for us now to honor all that work. And when I do that, I ask for you guys to unanimously support creating this TIF district, allowing this to move forward. This is absolutely the right vision for Lincoln County. Thank you.
thank you. Any other proponents?
Hello, Justin Weiland, City Administrator with the City of T. I just wanted to express the City of T's support and acknowledge that we are in support of the county commission's support of moving forward with this TIF district. The partnerships that have been created throughout the last 12, 15 years to get this project to where it's at today have been incredible, and I think that this move by the county to establish this district for the purposes of paying back the loan to the DOT is a very good strategy. It's a sound strategy, and the city of T is supportive of Lincoln County.
Thank you. Further proponents?
Paul Anderson, Assistant Commission Administrative Officer. I just have a few letters of support that were sent in to the commission, so I will just read those quickly. The first is from Mayor Tenhaken of Sioux Falls. Dear Lincoln County Commission members, I am writing to express my enthusiastic support for the 85th and I-29 interchange project, a unique and vital private-public partnership involving 5 key entities: the South Dakota Department of Transportation, the City of T, Lincoln County, a group of landowners, and the City of Sioux Falls. This collaboration underscores the project's immense need and value to our community. This project traces its origins to March 2008, when the Department of Transportation and the City of Falls initiated the I-29 corridor study. We are deeply appreciative of the DOT's unwavering support from this project's inception. 10 years ago, a remarkable opportunity arose when a group of landowners committed $4 million to complete the essential environmental study propelling the project forward and funding the initial design work. Today, we are in the final phase and actively working to secure all necessary funding. We are ready to see this project through to completion. The 85th and I-29 interchange will provide essential connection for T, Sioux Falls, and the rural areas of Lincoln County and beyond. This project promises to expand economic development for Lincoln County and neighboring regions. Excitement is growing in the City of T, where the Orthopedic Institute is constructing a new 2-story, 70,000 square foot building. This area is also set to benefit from developments in education, retail, office space, and multifamily residential properties. Funding for this project has been an ongoing and collaborative effort at the local, state, and federal levels. Sioux Falls has already invested significantly and is committed to millions more. We are grateful for the DOT's recent financial commitment, as well as contributions to the city, from the City of T and private landowners. Additionally, Senator Thune has secured $30 million in federal funding to support this endeavor. While the project's primary focus is in Lincoln County as an integral part of a robust transportation network for the state, this infrastructure will ensure that our economy, people, and essential services remain connected and function smoothly. We, along with the private landowners, elected leaders, SDDOT, and the City of T, kindly request your support in finally getting this across the goal line. It's time we get this done. Your support will help us bring this important project to fruition, benefiting our community and the state as a whole. Thank you for your consideration. Paul Tenhaken, Mayor. I have another letter from Representative Ernie Otten, South Dakota House, District 6. Commissioners, I am not able to attend the meeting today due to a medical appointment, so I ask that you read my letter into the record in support of Tax Incremental District Number 10. This process started in 2012 as a brainchild of Representative Steve Westra, who brought in Commissioner Schmidt, making 85 Fifth Street the premier economic development hub in the entire state. There are 2,500 undeveloped acres in this TIF, which will change the zoning from AG land to commercial, bringing in top dollar taxation versus rooftop residential property taxation. There was testimony that Lincoln County does not need to commit the $15 million because businesses themselves will jump in to fund it. Those same businesses have already funded $4 million for all the studies, so they are tapped out. And this TIF cannot happen unless Lincoln County is committed. This is a loan from the state for 10 years at a 1.5% interest rate. As a current House appropriator and former Senate chair of both transportation and taxation, to be absolutely clear, this will be an absolute game changer for Lincoln County, along with T, Harrisburg, and Sioux Falls. Lincoln County taxpayers will not pay 1 penny out of our general fund. The South Dakota Department of Transportation funds of $15 million. Lincoln County is only the guarantor. 12 years ago, when I first heard of the project, it reminded me of Mount Rushmore. Rushmore was originally conceived to attract visitors to the area, e.g. money or economic development. It was only later when Doane Robinson, the state historian of South Dakota, who wished to see the creation of a shrine of democracy in the Black Hills, enlisted the help of Gutzon Borgholm, a Danish-American sculptor, to bring it to fruition. This TIF is visionary. This TIF will be providing economic growth in this area for generations to come. I dare say this will become a model for economic development throughout the state, if not the nation. I would ask for unanimous support from this commission. Thank you. Respectfully, Representative Senator-elect Ernie Otten. And one final letter from Benny Otten, 4678 273rd Street, T, South Dakota. Dear Lincoln County Commissioners, I am unable to attend this meeting today, but I ask you to read my letter into the record in support of Tax Incremental District Number 10. This Lincoln County Pro-Economic Development Project was started approximately 2012 by Lincoln County's own, at the time, Representative Steve Westra, who championed it with our own Commissioner Schmidt. This is from our Republican platform. We believe political freedom and economic freedom are indivisible. When political freedom and economic freedom are separated, both in peril. When united, they are invincible. Rebuilding the economy and creating jobs, a growing economy, gives everyone a chance in life, an opportunity to learn, work, and realize the prosperity freedom makes possible. Government cannot create prosperity, though government can limit or destroy it. Prosperity is the product of self-discipline, enterprise, saving, investment by individuals, but is not an end in itself. Prosperity provides the means by which citizens and their families can maintain their independence from government, raise their children by their own values, practice their faith, and build communities of cooperation and mutual respect. The South Dakota Department of Transportation funds of $15 million. Lincoln County is only the guarantor. Department of Transportation originally had this as a very low priority project, but because of it becoming an off-ramp directly into T, not as an overpass, the Lincoln County pledging monies along with the $4 million in private landowner funding, it caught the attention of the state and DOT and moved this up the ladder on their priority list. My letter is meant to overcome any objections to passing this TIF by bringing transparency and education to facts to the department, using the Department of Revenue's website, re-TIFs. And there's a link to the TIF information. Will my property taxes increase due to TIF? If the TIF district is classified as industrial or economic, no additional levy will be applied. Will the TIF affect school funding? No. The state of South Dakota uses a formula to calculate the amount of general funding distributed to a school district each year. A portion of the money going in the formula is funded by taxes collected by the state and a portion funded by local property taxes. The formula is designed to hold the school district harmless when a TIF is created. Who monitors the TIF process? Counties and municipalities oversee the progress of the TIF district. When does a TIF district terminate? A TIF district can exist for up to 20 years under SDCL 11-9-25. Any TIF may be terminated earlier if all financial obligations are paid off and the county or municipal board passes a resolution to dissolve the TIF. I believe this is truly a visionary, forward-looking progress and would ask that you pass this unanimously. Thank you for your opportunity to support this project, Betty Otten.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Okay, thank you. I guess, is there any opponents? Any questions that this commission has at this time for any of the speakers or the letters being read? If none, I guess, any discussion? I guess I'll entertain then a motion so we can have discussion on it.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Mr. Aaron's to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Mr. Schmidt. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for putting this together. I hope that in the future, this is a game changer for economic development in Sioux Falls. I hope it drives growth and development. I hope that we're able to, the county, many years into the future, as well as the school districts and the cities, will benefit from the growth and development that it creates. At the same time, though, we need to go into this eyes wide open. It will have some short-term impact on the county's general fund budget. Contrary to what some folks have said, some money may have to come out of general funds here in the county. We will be taking a loan from our highway department and transferring that money over in order to pay for this. So of course, that obviously means that other highway projects that could have benefited from that money will otherwise be diverted to pay for this project. So as long as everyone is going into this eyes wide open and understands that there are other deserving projects around the county that will either have to wait or be reduced in size and scope so that this project can be accomplished. And there's a lot of other projects in the county that need to be tackled as well. So the only cautionary but optimistic words that I would offer is that we have to take that into consideration when we budget for things moving into the future. And that would be in years 27, 28, 29. And then we start to see some appreciation and growth at the end of 30 into 31. So there will be some short-term pain in our budget, and we're just going to have to take that into account because it will mean that other departments in the county may also realize some, what do you want to call it? We may not be able to budget the kind of money we wanted to towards those departments. So I'm optimistic. I hope this will do well for the county, for the region. I think this really is going to be a big benefit to the region, but it will incur some short-term pain here at the county budget level. So with that, I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I was hoping Commissioner Schmidt would speak first, so I'd have the last word on this, but that's not going to happen. I can see that. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's hard to believe it's 10 years has flown by this quickly. We've had a few hurdles in between here and there. I can still remember the day when Commissioner Schmidt brought this idea to the county. As everyone knows, I'm probably the most pessimistic to try to get convinced on trying to approve something that's somewhat stretching the duties of the county. But glad to say that you have my full support on this for the simple fact that my biggest question is how do we pay for it? And this is a very valid way in which to pay for it. And it's just part of the instrument that is needed to make sure this happened. It definitely is setting a new foundation for what may become more of a partnership between private and public entities to try to get projects that need to get done. And it holds the school district harmless, which is a key part of my support of this as well. So Commissioner Schmidt, I want to congratulate you because I do think you put a lot of time in and deserve to have some recognition on that. So thank you, Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I don't think that any one commissioner has had any more to do with it probably than the rest of you. The one thing I would like to state to Commissioner Ahrens is while there may be a short-term impact on the budget, that remains to be seen as to the growth and how fast this particular area will develop. And the faster that it develops, the more revenue, tax revenue comes off. And I think Mr. Meyer Henry may address that at some time. But all of the money that, if there was an impact on the budget, would be returned. You would get all of your funds that you invested up front would come back to you, along with the money that we do have in reserves to compensate for our first few payments on this thing while that's been accumulating in the Department of Transportation. So to some degree, Commissioner Ahrens is correct. There may be some short-term things, but it isn't money that it's never going to be gone. It's going to come back to you at some time as this TIF develops. I think that the vision that we've talked about, I think Mr. Lloyd has said it well, because when you listen to him and the number of projects that the man has been responsible for, and to see how growth. And I want to share one thing with Craig Lloyd. We were both ambassadors for the Chamber of Commerce, and this young man came with a picture of a map which now has your Walmarts, it has your all of your big box stores, Home Depot, that whole area that has been developed, the shoe place that's on Shirley Avenue. And he came and gave this to us to say that we thought he was a little bit, I don't want to use deranged, because that's not right, but no one had a vision. I mean, how can you see this? Well, look at it today. So I commend Greg because he was the one that started Dolly Farms on the east side and so many things, Lake Lorraine and all the other kind of stuff. So when Craig had an idea that this thing could develop into something far beyond, but when you start the 85th Street and you start an interchange and you start going west, how far west can you go? And the benefit to everybody is Sioux Falls and T and Harrisburg and the school, but in the county in the long run. Because the county really, you guys, lives on growth for our budget. We have to grow economically and development, and that's what feeds our budget. So this thing, you know, how many millions? We've had numbers in the billions of dollars. So I think this is going to be one of those things that we can look back at as a commission together and say that we did the right thing and we put a spike in for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just real briefly, I completely agree with Commissioner Poppins and Commissioner Schmidt and all of the visionaries that are bringing this to fruition. I'd just like to thank everybody involved, Mr. Lloyd, Commissioner Schmidt, the DOT, Senator Thune. But it's a great public-private partnership, and I'm really excited to see this project go forward.
Yes, I think so as well. And it's also good for the schools. Let's not forget that. All right, that being said, is there any further discussion? Am I correct, Mr. Ahrens, your motion was to create tax increment District Number 10, correct?
That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And we already had a second on it. No other discussion? I guess we can call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Poppins?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on. Item number 2, Mr. DeGroot. Go ahead, sir.
Todd Meyer, Henry, Sioux Falls. The next step after you create the tax increment district is to prove a project plan. Now, the project plan historically was put in statute so it would give the public an idea of what was going to be done inside the tax increment district. In this project plan, it's a public improvement. These monies are going towards an interchange. So that's the first thing. The second is how much money is this going to take out of the other taxing districts? Because when you create a tax increment district like you did a minute ago, it draws a base. All taxing districts today and into the future until this is terminated will get all the tax revenues on what the value is 2 minutes ago or today. And as the improvements go on, those taxes, as the taxes are paid by the real property owner, they don't see any difference. They don't know a tax increment district is even there. But they pay their taxes just like anybody else. It goes to the treasurer, then the treasurer divides it. It divides the taxes that go to the taxing districts and sends it off, and then it takes the rest of the money, puts it in, sends it to the county, they put it in the tax increment district to, in this case, which the plan states, is to pay back a tax increment loan and to reimburse the county if they have to advance the funds. Now, the key thing is, how did we come up with these numbers? Is it feasible? And I think Joel would say that, that's the concern is it feasible? Is it going to flow? How is it going to work? To give you a little background, I've created tax increment districts all across the state, but one of the most challenging ones that I worked on was Black Hills Power. It was not only a taxing district, but it was laid over an existing tax increment district that wasn't working. And so we had to do over a vast area, Catron Avenue. I don't know if you've seen Black Hills Power's new national headquarters. It spread it out similar to this, except it was different. We didn't know anything. There were some ideas that maybe a medical center would come and a hotel, but it wasn't like the developers that are in this room, they've had plans for a decade. So what I did is I took the experience that I had out there with Black Hills Power and looked at it. First thing that we did when we looked at these numbers, we pulled up all the real estate, put it in an Excel sheet, and it became very clear that if it is developable property in the city of Sioux Falls, in T, or even on its environs, on its edges, the dollar per square foot, not acre, is $4.50. And that became very clear looking at all the properties that were out there. If we did nothing else and looked and said, over time, all of these properties will go from 90 cents, $1, $2 to $4.50, that easily would have paid off this TIF within its lifespan. So that's number one. Is it feasible if nothing occurs? It is. Wouldn't make us happy, but it is. Second is, I took all the property that's in tax increment district. What's TIF's T's district number? 3. We looked at tax increment district number 3 and said, okay, this is the history of 3. What are the values in 3? And can we overlay those using that same pattern? And so when we did that, we came up with, 25 to 39 million per little quarter or box. When you look at your tax increment district, our little boxes. And so we used those numbers and ran them. Then we reached out to the developers, not under oath, but what is your projections of what you're going to put on? And you've heard one of the developers already give us a number. And that was, and reached out to City of Sioux Falls, said, what do you think? Because they plan for growth just like Lincoln County does. And it was 20 million the first year, which I think is low, and 25 each year thereafter, which I also think is low. But we used those projections. And the other thing that we did is we did not include any construction inflation. So we use today's numbers carrying them into the future, so we have no construction inflation, nor do we have any normal inflation on real property values, which is about 3%. When you look at the county's value, nothing happens, 3% every year, it may not always be, it'll be like this, but we average 3% inflation. We didn't put those numbers in either. And we put no numbers in for the original years. We know next year the property is going to be worth more, but we put 0 in until we started collecting tax increment. When we ran those numbers, you could, if you took the tax increment, you're going to be somewhere, I didn't memorize it, but it's like 3,300,000 potentially short, because the first year you're going to pay that first $1.6 million payment because you're not going to have anything. Then the next one, we start collecting, next one. But then once you turn the corner, you collect all of that back. 2033 is our projection if you just use your tax increment to pay off the state, you could pay them off early. And 2035, you would reimburse yourself significantly. Now, there's other ways that you could do this if you're looking at financial planning. Once we know this revenue is going to be significant, we could, especially when we start seeing this, I have used this in other communities where we do tax anticipation notes so that we don't have a hole in our budget. We know we're going to have these taxes coming in. We borrow to fill up what you concerned is our budget would have a hole. We do tax anticipation notes, which is a 5-year obligation, and we fill the holes that we know we're going to have early, but we know we're going to have the revenue later. And we would know that because every construction project takes 18 months and it needs a building permit. And it's either going to be in the city of T or the city of Sioux Falls, and we will know those numbers and when they're going to come on. And so that you could project and use creative financing to basically fill. Historically in our state, we have not done this, but all over the nation, I think they do that every day. Minnesota does it. School districts borrow because of the way they collect. They borrow their money before it comes in to pay for for a semester of school. So they do it, that's just a standard course of business, but that would be a possibility. So when we ran this, the key thing is this feasible? I've done so many of these. The average tax increment district will pay off between 6 and 11 years. This is an average tax increment district. It should pay off in 11 years. My instinct says it's going to pay off earlier. The Black Hills Power, which I thought was a stretch, is paying off early, mainly because once this occurs, that whole area is just going to be developed. I mean, you can see it as a comment is when you have a gas station that's at the end of a dead-end road, they're putting $6 million of investment at a dead-end road. You know, there's some people that definitely think that this is going to be a successful development. With that, all 11 items that are supposed to be in the tax increment plan are in there. Nobody's being displaced. You've got everything ready to proceed.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Meyer Henry here in regard to the tip? And I guess paying of the flat fee.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agreement between the county and Meyer Henry Sargent for legal services for the creation of the TIF and the TID.
I'll second.
Motion by Aaron's and second by Landine. Any discussion?
Public.
Is there public input on the matter? None? I guess then we're ready to vote. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Gibbon?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, Mr. Aaron's.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Very personal purpose. I just would like to have a public comment and thank some individuals for their exceedingly hard work on this matter. Nothing happens without a staff that has worked diligently to make this happen. So I'd publicly like to thank our auditor, Sherry Lund, for her efforts. I would like to thank Drew DeGroot for his input. I'd like to thank Steve Rasmussen, and especially you, Todd, for your service. But I want to also give a real shout out to Toby Round, who is our planning and zoning director, who did all the heavy lifting on this thing, along with our director of equalization, Carla Gosen, who worked countless hours to get this done. So a heartfelt thank you for your dedication and your hard work. We have a great staff here in Lincoln County, and I think this is a good example of how well they work together, and the end result is done today. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Lake Elvin.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have Adam Calcia and his team from Game Fish and Parks Department here, and they've got a PowerPoint presentation up on the screen, and they're going to give some pretty good comments about what's going on at Lake Elvin, as well as what the spillway reconstruction project.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Adam Kalesa. I'm the Planning and Development Administrator for the Parks Division of the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks out of the Pier office. With me today, I want to introduce some fellow staff members of mine. We've got Jason Bauman. Jason is the district supervisor for this area. He's based out of Newton Hills State Park, and he oversees the Lake Elvin Recreation Area. Also, I have James Gilkerson. He's a staff engineer that has been working with our consultant engineering firm and will be working and be the point of contact with our consultant firm and our spillway construction contractor company. And then lastly, I have Jason Youngworth with me here today as well. Jason is a member of the Wildlife, Aquatic and Fisheries team, and he's there as a subject expert in case there's any questions about the lake as a fishery as a whole. So again, thank you for the opportunity to present on an update for the Lake Elvin spillway replacement. Commissioner Aaron's reached out to me a couple months ago now, requesting that South Dakota Game Fish and Parks come and provide an update to the county commission to make you aware of what we have planned for the Lake Elvin spillway replacement. So I'll get right to it. Next slide, please. A little bit about Lake Alvin Recreation Area. This area sees approximately 120,000 visitors per year that visit the recreation area. The total land base between wildlife and parks property is approximately 244 acres, with 52 acres being the recreational area. Numerous amenities at this park. While we do not have organized overnight camping at this park, we do have all the other amenities that you would typically see in any of the other state park facilities and state parks or recreation areas across the state. And then the lake is a fishery. The lake is approximately 105 acres, and we've got numerous species of fish in the lake that our anglers are targeting at any given time during the summer season. Okay. Well, the reason why we're here today is really to provide an update on the spillway replacement project. If anybody has noticed and driven around the area, we have already done some minor work with some tree removal. The tree removal portion was a subject that we had to broach ourselves with a determination to stay with FEMA compliance, and we had to take care of those trees before the spring season here, before we get started on the spillway construction. And so that's really the only portion that's been done. We do have a contract in place with Meyer Construction. They're based out of Minneapolis. And we've been working hand in hand with our consulting engineering firm, Bar Engineering, out of Minneapolis as well, who was the lead group on designing the spillway. So this started back in 2019 when we had a large event that caused some damage on the spillway. And you can see in these pictures here that we had some loss of embankment and some damage to the concrete on the side of the spillway. And starting in 2019, the first step was really having a declaration of an emergency to where we were determined to be FEMA eligible. And that started the process with us working with FEMA to determine what is the best course of action. And in those early conversations, FEMA really covers a return to pre-disaster. And so we were able to come up with an agreement with FEMA that there's a X amount of dollars that it would take to return the area to a pre-disaster condition. And what we did is we took that information back with our consultant engineering firm, Bar Engineering, and asked them to provide a recommendation on, is that the most economically feasible way to be able to use the dollars that FEMA would agree to allow for replacing or repairing the spillway to pre-disaster. And the determination that we got from Bar Engineering and internally was we wanted to take that money and go ahead and proceed with an alternate project with FEMA to use those dollars for a complete spillway replacement. So it was determined back then with the help of our consultant engineering firm that that's the way we were going to go. And so we started that process with Bar Engineering, starting analysis of a complete spillway reconstruction project. It was an age structure, and we felt like it was the best thing to do was to take that money from FEMA and then apply it to an alternate project to do a full replacement so that we could have something that could last for generations to come. So that process kind of led us to look at our capital development budget and see where funding would come from. In addition to the small amount of money that was going to come from FEMA, we knew that this project was going to cost significantly more than that. And so during the 2022 legislative session, there was a bill passed to apportion some general fund dollars to put towards both Lake Alvin and Newell Lake spillway replacements that were both damaged in 2019. As Bar Engineering continued their process with final design, we got some final estimate numbers on what that was going to cost, and we went back this last legislative session and asked for some additional funding to make sure that we could cover the cost in addition to the FEMA money with those general funds to be able to replace this structure. And that contract was awarded, and we've already had a pre-construction meeting, and we have another pre-construction meeting with our contractor today, actually right after this meeting today. And so keep moving forward here. Go ahead, next slide. Just wanted to share the Lake Alvin watershed map that we developed. This information was used by both internally with our engineering staff and our consultant engineering firm to kind of determine what are the left and right limits for design and any kind of parameters that we're going to set with the construction contractor. And as you can see, we've got a large area of watershed. And basically what that means is there's an added level of protection we need to do with the design and construction limits to make sure that we can account for the potential for any kind of rainfall event so that we don't have something catastrophic happen. And so, once the spillway starts being removed, we want to make sure that we have the left and right limits with our construction contractor that we can accommodate those things that may happen when Mother Nature decides to bless us with her presence. Next slide, please. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the lake is going to look significantly different. And so with that determination with Bar Engineering, we've set the limits at a minimum lake drawdown of 10 feet. And so the top of the spillway elevation is at 1308. And we set the parameters, left and right limits for our contractor that the lake needs to be drawn down at least 10 feet. And that gives us plenty enough storage space to allow some kind of rain event to be able to be accommodated while construction is going on. But we also set the limit of a 15-foot maximum drawdown to try to get, set ourselves up for the best possible solution here for trying to set left and right limits that, prevent some risk of rain events happening, but also try to protect the fishery itself. And with this lake drawdown, with the elevations, we can expect that the entire western half of the lake will be completely empty between those limits of 10 and 15 feet of drawdown. And we would expect that the fish would gravitate and normally find their way to the deeper water areas on the eastern side of the lake. And that's where we expect them to congregate once the lake drawdown starts happening. The construction company is required to submit a water plan to us that we can review to make sure that we consult with our engineering firm to make sure that it is something that is safe and that we can approve. And so they have submitted a preliminary dewatering plan right now, and the details of that are explaining means and methods of how they're going to dewater and then how much they're going to be taking out each day. And so we have set left and right limits of no more than 1 foot of drawdown per day. So if we're looking at a minimum of 10 feet drawdown, it's going to take at least 10 days with that 1 foot a day, a top benchmark. Now, it's probably yet to be seen on what exactly will happen with the contractor. They're going to learn some things too when they start their dewatering on if they have big enough siphons and is there enough groundwater that's refueling the lake. And we'll work through those things. But I think the main point here is to express that, there was a lot of thought put into these minimum and maximum drawdowns to make sure that we were balancing safety and everything that the contractor needed in order to perform this project and try to keep it as low as cost as possible. Next slide, please. There will be some impacts, temporary impacts to the recreation area. And so the staging area is mainly going to be both on the north and south side of the existing spillway. There's going to be a significant amount of dirt work done on both sides. And so very much so a decision that we did not take lightly, that we want to have those areas closed for the contractor to be able to perform their work. We're also going to be closing the beach area. Jason and his team locally here are planning on doing a renovation project at the beach area. Timing-wise, we're timing that with this spillway reconstruction project, with lake levels drawn down significantly, a very not very usable from a park user standpoint, and so we wanted to take that opportunity with this small window starting here this month through the rest of the year to go ahead and make some improvements on that beach area. However, the trail systems are still remain open, and so the public can access the trail system there at Lake Alvin Recreation Area. The beach area intends to be closed July 15th. We'll find out if that date is still the same date from our contractor here this morning, and you've got my word that we will continue to communicate with our user base and this commission on any kind of impacts. But As of the last meeting that we had with our construction contractor, these were the dates that were given for closures at Lake Alvin Recreation Area. So the 15th of July basically is the day that they will start the drawdown. And the drawdown, even a foot of drawdown can drastically change the beach area and the boat ramps. And so we decided as a department that we would just close everything down at that first day that they're starting the drawdown, just so that we don't have anybody that gets hung up out on the water with those kind of conditions. Next slide, please. Just to speak a little bit about the fishery impacts, I mentioned that we expect the fish to naturally find their way. I think we do expect some minor fish kill. Fish kill potential really depends on Mother Nature. So when we have the lake drawn down, and if the lake stays drawn down over the winter, there's certainly a chance that we could have the conditions to have some kind of potential fish kill impact. I think our fisheries team is prepared to be reactionary to that if we have something like that happen. The fisheries team is prepared to have a contingency plan to make sure that we restore the fishery to pre-construction condition. And so we're hoping Mother Nature cooperates with us, and we have very minimal. But just in case it does, there is a plan with our fisheries team to make sure that we replace those fish and provide a quality fishery that our customers are expecting of us. Another thing I want to mention is we are, with the design, we're putting in a low-level outlet for maintenance. This low-level outlet is not a flooding type of use mechanism. This is really for allowing our fishery staff to be able to draw the lake down from a fishery standpoint to either rejuvenate an area or maybe lower the water enough so that we can perform some maintenance on some things. And so it's really just a management tool for our fishery staff, that low-level outlet. And then we really expect this project to go fairly quickly between now and finishing the project and having it ready next spring. And so we don't expect to have much shoreline vegetation, which can typically be good from a fishery standpoint, but we don't expect that to happen because of the short time frame window. Now, as far as the schedule, so we do have a contract in place. Like I said before, we do have a pre-construction meeting with our contractor. I think they're still reeling from the rain events a couple of weeks ago, but I can report that we had Bar Engineering on site to take a look at things, and that event did not have any significant impacts on our scheduling. And so we'll be working with our contractor very diligently, again, reviewing that dewatering plan and feeling out their comfort level based on the conditions on the ground for them getting started. But we would expect that would happen. We haven't heard anything different, that the contractor wants to get in there. They're very excited to start to get in there because their plan is to try to get everything done so that they don't have to have a lot of cold weather concrete pouring this winter. So they would like to get in there as soon as possible. We chose the July timeframe. It's typical for us to avoid those spring timeframes when you might have a bunch of water and rain events coming in, which could make it difficult for contractors. So, but also allowing the contractor adequate enough time to get in there and get quality bids from the contractor. And the bids came in really close to our engineering estimate. And so, again, we signed that contract, and we're looking forward to get started with them. Some of the other kind of scheduling things I mentioned earlier, the first part of it is getting that lake drawn down to that minimum 10-foot level. There may be some clearing and grubbing that we may see here in the next couple of weeks prior to that starting. But really the lake drawdown is the big portion of it, so that they can then start removing the old spillway, framing up the new spillway, and pouring concrete. And the expected completion date is the spring of '25. And so we expect when spring runoff starts occurring next year that this project will be done and the spillway will be functioning as intended. Next slide. I mentioned we expect the spillway to be back in operation in the spring of '25. And if I go back to the watershed area that we have at that feeds Lake Alvin, we are very confident that any normal spring event will completely fill up the spillway up to the elevations right away in the spring of '25. We've got a lot of confidence in that happening. The beach area project that will happen simultaneously this fall, again, we expect that to be open right away next spring. And then the boat ramps that'll be closed here next week, those will also be back open and run in the spring of '25. We did have to make a venue change for our open house. We originally had scheduled this a couple weeks ago to have an open house event for the public at Good Earth State Park Visitor Center. We've changed that venue now to the outdoor campus, and that's going to be happening today at 5:30 to 7 o'clock at the outdoor campus in Sioux Falls. And in addition to that, our communication staff will continue to send out emails to our user base, email list, and we'll get that over to the commission as well to be able to be shared with any other local stakeholders, and we're asking our local staff to also do that. And at this time, I want to have Jason come up and talk a little bit about the beach area project, just a couple more slides, and then we would stand by for any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're taking the opportunity to work on our beach. Beach is a high-use area. If anybody's been there on the weekend, it's not uncommon for the parking lot to be nearly full. So it's a good opportunity. The beach will not be used at this time, so we are going to do a number of items. Next slide. So on this picture, we have multiple things going on here. We have a lot of drainage issues coming down from the hill, and you can see a lot of the dirt on the sidewalk. So I have a contract out right now to Blackburn, and we're going to poly lift that whole area. Overall, from the original construction back in the 80s, it sunk about 6 inches, which is caused our drinking fountain line to break, our shower line to break, and then all the dirt to start to erode down on the sidewalk. So we plan on lifting that whole area up. The picnic shelter down there has ran its life, so we're going to be tearing that down. And then we're actually going to be creating 2 smaller picnic shelters down there to hopefully accommodate more use. We're going to do some repairs on the retaining wall for the beach, and then we're going to be removing and moving the drinking fountain down there. Next slide. It's kind of a different angle there, kind of looking up towards the parking lot. And then to the left is where a lot of the water coming down the hill. There used to be a drainage that went off to the right, and there's a ditch there, and then it can shed the water. Over some large rain events, it's kind of channelized that, so it's kind of jumping across and coming down on the beach area there. So we're also going to fix that as well. Next slide. Okay. Beach renovation project's pretty straightforward. But any questions?
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Mr. Kolesa and his team for putting this presentation together. Reached out to him a couple months ago and just explained that it was good for the county commission to have a good relationship with GF&P, just because we not only have Lake Alvin out there, we've got the wildlife management area across the road, and there's just a lot of infrastructure that feeds into these GF&P sites in our county. And also, it's a very attractive area for growth and development out there as well. You know, it's just driving a lot of people. You know, we've approved over the last few years a number of developments around the lake out there. So it's good to have a relationship with them, and it's good to hear how the project is going to impact our folks. One question I did have is, maybe it's kind of an elementary question, but when you do the lake drawdown, where does all the water go to, and how's that going to work? Maybe that's what folks out there may be concerned about too.
Mr. Chair. Commissioner Aaron's, thank you for the question. Yeah, that'll be part of the dewatering plan that they submit, but I would expect that we would go up and over into the natural outlet, getting rid of the water that way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and maybe it's just happenstance, but it's probably good that Highway 135 is closed right now while the project's going on, because there's a couple road closed signs right there, and I don't know how well they're being observed by the public right now, because I know some folks are going around them, but it probably is, it's good, it's happenstance that hopefully there'll be lesser traffic there while you're doing the project. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And today you said at 5:30 where?
5:30 at the outdoor campus in Sioux Falls.
At the outdoor campus. All right.
Mr. Chairman, quick comment.
Yes.
I want to thank the GFNP for the presentation, obviously, and keeping the public informed, as well as the commission. But I do want to thank you for the investment into this project and anything in our area. One of our goals is always to try to keep our area growing, as you've seen in our TIF that we just presented. Our area has substantial growth, which people are moving in constantly, as we all know. So anything that we can do to enhance the outdoor activities for the individuals, younger families, is greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
it is highly used and high desirable area. I just wondered, when you drain off the one area, are you ever dredging any of that silt and all the rest of that stuff that's accumulated over years of time? 'Cause
Mr.
you're-
Chairman,
Just a question.
Commissioner Schmidt, no, we're not planning on doing any of that. You know, with reaching out to the state legislature for funding, we had to kind of keep it confined to work that was to benefit that. But certainly that's on the back of our minds. You know, we historically have got water quality issues after rain events at Lake Alvin, and that's something that we don't take lightly. And what I would tell you is that it's likely going to take some kind of larger collaborative effort to be able to do something there, but there's nothing planned with this project at that time to address any of those things.
All right. Are you,
On that note, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Schmidt, I do want to applaud the community of Mitchell. They're undertaking a very large project similar to that, and I want to applaud them for investing into their future and the use of that lake, so.
do you have boats now on Lake Elvin or anything right now?
Yeah, Lake Alvin is open for
It's
boating
open.
traffic right now, but we will be closing the boat ramps July 15th, according to the schedule that we've got from our contractor.
Now, Commissioner Schmidt, if there was something you lost when you were out on that lake at one time, this would be the time to go try to find it. When you were a kid, when they
You
built
never
that.
lose things.
I refuse to answer because we use the beach more than we use the lake, if that means anything, you know.
Well, I'll have to tell my grandson that he can still go out kayaking on Lake Elvin. I told him I didn't think he could because it was closed, but he ended up going to Lake Lorraine, and that's kind of interesting that they allow kayaking there, so, anyway,
Again, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
let's
you,
move
Mr.
on
Chair,
to.
and we're going to get out of here right away so we can make it to the construction meeting, so thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Let's move on then to item number 4, Department of Social Services, Drew DeGroot.
Morning, Commission. Drew DeGroat from the State's Attorney's Office. This may be the easiest agenda item that you have on here. I did not believe that this was previously approved, and as our auditor likes to do, is correct me when I'm wrong. And so this one does not need any action. This has already been previously approved.
So no board action is,
No board action is
okay.
necessary.
I was going to commend you that you had everything spelled out for the tenant and the landlord, but I guess we've already done that, so, all right, thank you. Let's move on then to item number 5, our auditor.
Yep, so this is a board action to approve a refund of taxes for the tax years payable 22 in the amount of $85.64, tax year payable 23 in the amount of $93.84, and partial abatement and refund of tax year payable 24 in the amount of $548.80 for a parcel in the city of Beersford, parcel number 260-30-07006, based on charitable exemption. The facts on this is the note from the Director of Equalization. The application for exemptions were not received for the parcel by the November 1st date of the year. So she's basically recommending denial of the abatement applications because it did not have the exemption status. We do have the affirmative requested action to go ahead and prove it, but we are asking that you deny it.
Okay, is there any public input on this? If not, I guess are there any questions for our auditor by this commission? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Landine, second by Schmidt. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
No.
Poppins,
No.
Landine,
No.
Schmidt,
No.
Gibbon.
No. Motion failed. Next. I guess it's our budget work session. I know one of our commissioners has to leave at 10:15, so
Do you want to do what we previously have done and do the public input first and any executive session and go into the budget?
okay, we can do that. Let's go ahead and, as our auditor suggests, give an opportunity for public comment. Any public comment today? Please state your name and address.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Andrea Irwin. I'm with the Rural Office of Community Services out of Wagner, South Dakota, but we do have services here in Canton, which is what brings me here today. We previously did put in a request for our dining services program and our transit program in the county. When I spoke to Paul earlier this week, just informed me that you guys were kind of asking for input as to why our numbers were a little bit different from previous years.
This might not be public input, it might be part of
The budget.
auditor's work session.
Yes.
So if you wanna
Okay.
wait till Paul speaks on the
Budget.
budget work session for outside agencies, then you can come up then.
Okay,
That'd be a better
Yeah,
okay.
thank you for, all right. Any other?
Non-topic, or topic comments?
Yes, any comments that are not on the agenda? None? Okay, then I'll go ahead and ask for commissioner reports.
Did you report on our executive session? Mr. Chair, about a week ago, Commissioner Landine and I attended the South Dakota Association of Counties Executive Board, in which we talked about issues that are forthcoming. We reviewed the legislative session, talked about resolutions that counties may have to take to the next legislature. We talked about a green book development, which is being formulated that will be used by legislators because it contains all of the pertinent data that exists, like your populations of your counties, the amount of monies that counties spend on various departments. It'll look at the number of school-aged children you have, the number of roads, bridges. In other words, it'll be a tremendous reference book that legislators can have at the ready. They don't have to look it up. They've got it there. And it came from the state of Wisconsin that has used this thing. So we're in the process of putting that together, and I think that will be a valuable service that legislators can have, but they'll recognize where it came from. Not that it'll make a great deal of difference in the amount of revenue that they may want to supply us, but at least it's something that we can say we've done for them anyway. So,
Thank you. Any other commissioners have anything to share this morning? If not, then I guess we're ready to go into our budget work session. Thank you.
Oh, hey, you guys sign this?
Thank you, Paul. Paul Anderson, Assistant Commission Administrative Officer. For our work session today, I don't believe we have anything to clear up from last time. We will do equalization, treasurer, 4-H. We'll give Wendy a call after equalization and treasurer as she's running around out at 4-H, and then we'll do the outside agencies. We have one at least that we're gonna postpone that couldn't be here in person today. And then, also, just started thinking about it, we can talk about it later. Potential of doing a special session to review the budget in full, go over the full provisional budget And it doesn't have to be in-depth in every department, like kind of we've done. But if you have any questions, you want to see the full budget, if you would like to do that, we can, that would be a good time to review the budget. And then on the 23rd is our last scheduled commission meeting to approve the provisional budget, which needs to be approved between the 15th and 30th of July. Carla,
Okay,
we'll have Carla go.
Are you starting first, Paul?
We'll have Carla go first.
Carla's going first, okay. What pages are we on, Carla? Oh, you have a different book.
Different book.
Okay. Paul, do you have the?
it's just, it should be labeled in there.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission. Carla Gosen, Director of Equalization. Thank you for the opportunity to explain some of our line items that are associated with our 2025 budget. Along with the budget request that you have, we have some narrative information. I may refer back to that during this budget discussion. The first line item that I want to review is just our personal services. Those numbers are set by you. Those are wages, insurance. In our other expenses, the line items that are, what I looked at is the 3-year average on each line expense. So I took into consideration an average for that line item, or I implemented a cost of living type increase, like a 3%. Some of those that are over that average or the 3% cost of living type of expense for my line items, those are the items that I'm going to highlight today, such as the insurance. For the 25 budget year, I projected about a 62% increase. Again, these items are business type insurance expenses, such as your car insurance. Department heads don't have a lot of control over this type of expense, but I just wanted to make sure that was highlighted during this discussion. And go ahead and stop at any point and ask questions. I'd be happy to answer them. 2 large increases that I want to discuss today is our professional fees. This received about a 144% increase. To start off, I added the additional postage increase that the federal has let us know that was going to take place this year. In addition to the mailings that we will have in 25 with the reappraisal and the other mailings that have increased dramatically over the course of each and every year, the new parcels that we increase, the owner-occupied applications that we continue to send out to help our folks with the benefit of the owner-occupied classification. But the biggest change in the professional fees was that IT transferred our Beacon Schneider annual maintenance fees into my professional fees. And the reason that they are transferring this into the 25 budget is because I collected income from that service. Currently, in my budget for
Carla, if I could interrupt.
You bet,
Just for
absolutely.
clarity then, was that previously in Jake's IT budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
Currently, the income that is projected for the 24, for the Beacon expense, or for the Beacon income for 24 is $30,000. I did add a slight increase for the 25 income, the income of $31,000 for 25. My stats show about a 12% increase last year to this year, but it's such a new income stream that I kept that increase from 24 to 25 very conservative. But right now, it's showing an increase last year versus this year of about 12%. The annual maintenance that we added in for Beacon that was put into the budget for 25 is roughly $20,000. So with the increase in postage, the mailings, and the Beacon annual maintenance into the professional fees, that's what caused the increase from 24 budget year to 25 budget year of 144%. And last, we have furniture and minor equipment. I added back in the $2,500 that was taken out in '24. Those expenses that we take from that line item is your chairs, your lasers, or any small equipment that the office purchases. That was removed from the '24 budget year, so I put that $2,500 in from the previous average of the years, from previous years. I also added in a new vehicle. In that new vehicle, I visited with my liaison commissioner, and we were both in agreement that it's time to start phasing in vehicles, specifically for safety reasons. Currently, we have 2 older vehicles in our fleet. We have a 2005 Dodge Durango with over 100,000 miles. And we also have a 2008 Ford F-150 with nearly 194,000 miles. And I can tell you from moving the vehicles during the flood, and I want to thank Commissioner Poppins for calling our office and, letting us know these vehicles need to be moved to different grounds. A shout out to Austin Preheim, who took the time on Friday when we were not supposed to work. He went and he moved the vehicles for the office. When we moved them back after the flood, I'm going to use, in the words of the folks that were moving the vehicles, that the F-150 is not healthy. It's just not a
Carla, are you
healthy
trying to tell me I
vehicle.
should have not called you, just left the vehicles?
So for the unhealthy reasons that we have for the F-150, and also we just need to start replacing some of these older vehicles. We're very different than our fleet from our sheriff's department or highway department. We don't put a lot of miles on our cars, but we can, but over time, 20 years, we need to start looking at replacing them. And right now, the F-150, our maintenance, our repairs exceed our maintenance by almost 3.5%. So when you see high mileage, unhealthy, and our repairs, it's time to replace a vehicle. So in my furniture and minor equipment, I am requesting a new vehicle. It's an all-wheel drive minivan. You have the specs. I see this as a dual purpose, not only for our office, doing appraisals, doing our building permit inspections. It's also can be used as a county-wide vehicle. Multiple times a year, we are asked from other departments the use of our vehicles. I have never turned anybody away. We accommodate those requests. I will continue to accommodate those requests. But as we start our reappraisal in 2025, our cars are going to be out on the road a lot more often than we have seen in the last couple of years.
Are you asking for a pickup then, or?
It's an all-wheel drive minivan.
Okay.
Yep. The specs are included with the
didn't see
narrative
that.
that I submitted in May. Are
Carla,
there any
anything else?
questions?
I did work with her a little bit on trying to get a proposal together for vehicles, because after reviewing, as she described, there's a need to start replacing, and I encourage the board to approve at least one vehicle there, because the time is coming for several reasons. Maintenance costs are jumping as we looked at that, as she indicated, as well as safety improvements have, over this many years, have improved as well for the personnel, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt, you're my assistant chair. I have to step out for 5 minutes. So if you want to keep going, because I know some of you have to leave early.
Are there any additional questions for Carla at this time? If not, Carla, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, what's our next one?
Franny, treasurer.
Oh, Franny, come forward.
Good morning, Franny Hofer, treasurer. On my budget, I just have 2 lines that actually went up this year besides the personnel services. And those are both due to the cost of postage going up. And then I am assuming we want to talk about a satellite office if we are still interested in this. I did get a call from the city of Harrisburg. They have bought the Liberty Elementary School. They have reached out. They said there's space for us. They're willing to give us a room about 3,000 square feet.
3,000 square feet?
Yes. So it will be able to house our office. We can put some servers in there if we need to. I talked to Jake in IT about what we would need there. That was a rough estimate of what amount of square feet we were thinking. At this time, they have told us that it would be of zero cost to us to house.
Including
our office
utilities?
there, including utilities. But if we do that, I would need at least 1 additional employee to go to that office.
Yeah, for clarification, I think the mayor, who I have or in a group has expressed interest. This is the old Liberty Elementary School,
Yes.
where they're going to evidently move all of their offices from where they currently have across the street in an old gas station. They're going to move that whole operation make it a government building. And I think, Franny, you were the first one that was contacted by Mr. Petrus, was it?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yep.
And, but the mayor, they're kind of high on this. So if you live in Harrisburg, it would be fun, you know. And I could certainly understand from the city of Harrisburg, if you start getting a lot of people coming to town and as fast as that outfit is growing, it's a good, it's well for them. So it's something I think we should look at. I don't know for other commissioners if you have an opinion, but it is, how many miles closer to Sioux Falls than Canton?
If the satellite office is established, we would also have to increase the grounds and buildings budget for the remodel.
I'm going to go on the record, as controversial this may be, I have asked about this for services to the public, easier access. It may not work, but I'm willing to take the chance and support a budget that would include that, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, didn't the auditor potentially have use for that too?
I'd have to think logistically how it would work, but yeah, during elections, I could have somebody up there to do absentee in-person voting.
Well, Commissioner Poppins, I'll just follow up in saying that we certainly have exhausted, from the Lewis drug to the banks to every possible area to try to find a satellite center that would accommodate a collection of taxes and license and things like that. And while they all are would like it, but they don't want it. Our last one was a Core Trust Bank, which was located on Cliff Avenue, which is new. And they just felt that they didn't have the right amount of space for that, or it would be an encumbrance to it. So we've really ran into so many stone walls. And the other part is, I don't think that we're ready to rent an expensive facility to try to have that situation. It seems to me that this may be an option to look at, and if it works, well, let's see what happens. Worth a try. I'm glad you're bold, Commissioner Poppins, on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an impact to a budget, but it's definitely a point of trying to serve the public better. And again, it may not work out, but I don't think that we're at a point where we have a better opportunity when we have an opportunity to no utilities and no rent, an investment into some upgrades of the facility to make it work, and a personnel, I think would be well worth that attempt, at least to try to provide better services to the public, at least for the treasurer's office. So, thank you.
Should we have building and grounds, though, put in some of those renovation costs into his budget or get us an estimate? And then Franny, do you have an estimate? Did you put in your, new person into your,
I did contingent on if we had the satellite
Okay.
office.
do you have any cost estimates or anything as far as renovating or what you would need there?
I don't.
I mean, maybe they'd be very minimal, but.
Yeah, I have had a call in. I'm just trying to figure out a day that would work for us to go and kind of look at the location and see what we would really need to do.
Because I think that, yeah, I don't want us to pass the budget and then everybody comes with supplement requests like
Right.
happened last year. So if John could look at that and look at
Okay.
his budget and see if he needs something added into that,
Okay.
that would be
Yeah, I will
helpful.
work with him, see if he could come tour with us and kind of see what we would need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Okay, next is 4-H or not?
Yep, no, so she's gonna get on the phone, and it should be the next one there. And she'll be, as soon as Carter gets her on the phone, we'll have her go through some of her stuff, like the intern and everything. Yeah, so we'll just give that just a minute, and then we will run through the outside agencies. Actually, while we're getting her on the phone, I'll just start off. There are two things at the start of the outside agencies that we'll need to discuss. SD, the South Dakota Association of County Commissions, is requesting a dues increase of about $4,811. That should be reflected on the spreadsheet there. They are changing their formulation based on, the dues is based on population. It's a base fee of $750 and then 22 cents per population on the census.
Has that always been based on population?
Yeah.
It has been, okay.
And they will, so that's their proposed increase. It will be voted on by the SDACC in September at their conference. But that is their proposed thing, so that will be an increase of about $5,000. And then the first thing on the outside agencies is Southeastern Behavioral Health, is requesting an increase of $20,000, about $20,000. That is a state mandated amount based on population, that number has updated for us.
Oh my God.
As a result of the census. So we are, as a county, we are legally obligated by state mandate to provide that amount of funding to a behavioral health center in the county. This year, we're recommending just increase that to Southeastern Behavioral Health, and then next year, we can look at kind of being more, spreading that out to other areas, other behavioral health centers that are located in the county. But those are two things that we will need your approval to increase in the budget.
Are those the type of items you'd like to discuss next week if we decide?
Well, we can discuss them now. I don't know if that we need, we can, if,
You don't need a formal motion on it.
yeah, we don't need a formal motion. They just consensus that we add them into your budget with your approval.
Well, it doesn't sound like we have a choice, so.
There's always a choice, Joe.
Right.
Okay,
I guess when outside agencies want to come in and ask for an increased budget, I'd like them to come and present that to us so we can ask questions.
Yeah, so that, and I'll circle back afterwards and we can make sure we're clear on everything. But it sounds like Wendy's on the phone, so I'll let Wendy speak.
all right, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, Wendy?
Hi, Jim.
Okay, you are on.
What would you like to know?
Well, what would you like to share about your budget for next year?
Well, I will say, unfortunately, I am unable to get into our data cluster for some reason right now, so I can't see what I have for actual numbers in these different items. I guess probably the biggest part would be to bring back a summer assistant into my budget. We've had that in past years, but we did not this year because we kind of took that out so we could hire the second youth program advisor. But I would like to put one summer assistant position back in the budget for 2025 because that would help us in the office for them to answer questions when people call in and don't have to wait for me to give them the answer, because we can hire one of the ones that we've had in the past. They're very knowledgeable in the 4-H program. And then with the state's rules of having to have 2 people over the age of 18 at any 4-H event or programming, having a summer assistant would help handle having one advisor on the grounds while the other one can be out reaching youth.
I know.
Any questions on that?
So this would be a full-time employee?
No, this would just be a summer assistant position. So it would just be it's seasonal. It'd just be a seasonal position. I think I had put it down for like 300 hours for the summer.
Yeah, you got, Wendy, you got a price tag of about $5,800 for your summer intern.
That's not,
Yeah.
no, it's about 85,
Well, I'm just looking at the bottom of the sheet here.
$9,183.40 is what it would cost to have a part-time summer employee. That's what we have in the wage.
So it's
budget
less
sheet.
than 40 hours a week, correct?
It's less than 40, so there'd be no benefits.
Yes. Yeah, and
was
I
reading
remember,
base
Wendy, you and I
salary.
talked about that we did.
Yeah.
What was this sheet at?
Wendy, how's everything going for getting ready for the little event you got coming up?
Well, it's 19 days until the start of Achievement Days.
But we're not
And the
counting,
progress-
right?
No. We got the last of the cement poured yesterday, so the wash racks have been poured. The water lines are live, and I think there's just a little bit of electrical to finish up in regards to having the grounds ready, and then we'll have, we have a work day July 21st for our volunteers to come help set up actual pens and prepare picnic tables and benches and things like that.
So our ribbon cutting is the same night as the goat and sheep show, is that correct?
Yes, yep, it's right at the beginning of that show, so we're just gonna do that ribbon cutting right before that show starts.
What night is that?
Oh.
The 30th.
Tuesday, the 30th.
The naming rights now are of all the buildings, do they all have naming rights already or
Nope,
not?
there's only one animal building that does not have any naming rights. So that's another thing that's being worked on is the signage for that, so.
So Wendy, just a clarification on your budget. When I did the budget worksheet, I did it at
Okay.
500 hours, but you're saying 300?
I'm pretty sure that's what I had down. Does anybody have my original worksheet?
Yes.
I didn't.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jim, what does it say? Does it
it's
say
three-
300?
Why would
Wendy,
you
it's
want it?
300 hours you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll get that changed in your budget then. And then, yes, then that takes it down to what you had on the worksheet.
5796, yeah.
Wendy, are you asking to go to the national conference next year in 25?
So that was on the agenda, I think, for the last meeting, and that is actually, the national conference is for this fall. So next year, I do not plan to go to a national conference. Next year, we will just have our spring and fall conferences for the state. So that number for our state conferences that we have to go to should be pretty accurate because they've released where those locations are going to be.
Okay. Any
I
other
will
comments or
note-
questions for our 4-H director?
Wendy, are
I
all the
will-
Wendy, are all the buildings going to be operative for Achievement Days?
Yes.
Good.
We will be, our plan is to be at like a 2019 Achievement Days where everything is here, so, all week.
Wendy, off topic of budget, I want to thank you and your 4-H leaders for turning this facility. I will be anxious to see in the next 20 years what this fully turns into. It's been a lot of hard work and support from the taxpayers of the county, but it definitely is a opportunity for the youth of the county and other areas outside of that to really prosper as we always try to enhance the life journey that our young students have and give them opportunities to go the right path. I think the 4-H is a great opportunity that's funded and supported by the state and by the county. So thank you, and thank you to your leaders.
Thank you, Mike. We have a lot of support from the community as well.
All right.
I would like to make a note on a budget, the supplies and materials section. We're adding a robotics and STEM programming that we plan to reach a lot of our school districts with that. And so we're looking at purchasing a classroom robotics kit. And we have received a grant and a couple of sponsorships, and we have received a significant sponsorship. So that is nearly fully funded for that.
Have you recorded the revenue for those grants or that significant sponsorship? Because I don't know that I've heard
Those
anything.
grants those have gone to our Leaders Association.
So the funds will go to the leaders, then are they coming back to the county?
Well, we'll pay for it out of the Leaders account at this time. So it will not be paid for out of the county budget.
So do we need to decrease your supplies and
You
materials?
could probably decrease that sum. It doesn't, what is my line item for supplies and materials?
You got, right now,
6,000
you've
something?
got 6,050.
Yep, that amount just accounted for it increased by 10%. That definitely does not account for the cost of those robots. The robots cost $7,900.
Okay.
So this was basically just an increase in having 2 people here and needing to, make more copies and buy more supplies for programs.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure when you were saying grants that we were accounting for revenue.
Yep.
Okay, Wendy, thank you. I don't think we have anything else for you.
Okay, thank you.
Outside agencies, which one do we want first, third? Paul?
We can have Rox come up. You had started your thing. We'll have Rural Office of Community Service. Am I saying that right? Yeah. We'll have Rox come up. They're doing both the that'll be the last tab. Both the dining and nutrition, or the transit and nutrition. Sorry, I was looking for the right word. So the Rox application includes both transit and nutrition. They're 2 separate lines on the spreadsheet listing, but it's.
Where are they at?
They're in the back.
Way in the back.
It should be the very last.
The last one. Which one are we doing first?
I think transit is first.
ROCS?
Yep.
Okay.
From Wagner.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello again. Okay, so I'm here with the Rural Office of Community Services. We've got 2 programs here in the county that are utilized through the ROCS agency, and that's the dining services and the transportation. The transportation is looking at an increase that we first did, asking you guys with our match funding, was of about $5,000 additional. This came about because as the years have gone on, I noticed there hadn't been an increase for transportation that we had asked for in several years. And the cost of maintenance and operations, salaries has gone up significantly over the years. We've also been in the market of replacing vehicles a little bit at a time. And that's been a huge need as our fleet across the agency was getting a lot smaller, especially here in Canton. That was getting older. The cost of repairs were getting outrageous because of those older vehicles. So we have been replacing those a little bit at a time. This year, I left it at what I had increased it last year. I did not do an additional increase because I know that everybody is looking at a slight increase over the next couple of years, and the money we're all getting from our state and local communities it's dwindling. So we're trying to make do with where we're at. We're looking at other income sources to help fund the operations for the transit. We're looking at some advertising opportunities and some more fundraising and networking within the agency to do that. So.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. And then for the dining services, Kayleen could not be here. She's our director of the meal services. She actually had to attend another location. So she sent me with her information as I work pretty close with her on these numbers. The meal services has not made a increase in probably longer than the transit has. They continually ask their counties and cities for about 28 cents a meal was what they were currently asking. She did a slight increase to 30 cents a meal this year. The state has not made any increases in what they give for their funding per meal. And the cost of food, like everything else, is going up so high that we've had to get a little creative to try and keep the participant costs down. So by doing that, she was hoping that 30 cents a meal wouldn't hurt anybody in the cities and counties to do, but would still allow for a slight increase to help offset those costs for food.
All right,
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of
Yes.
questions for you.
yeah.
On your, one thing is the budget, but are you seeing an increase in the number of people you serve for this meals? You're
Yes.
seeing actual numbers? Have you got
Yes.
anything like that?
I believe for the meal services, she does have on the back here, what we originally turned in with our application. In 2022, looks like she served almost 9,000 meals. Some of those were in sites, some of those were home delivered. 2023, that went up to just over 10,000. And what she's projecting finishing up 24 was that just over 10,000 again, and projecting for 25 closer to 11 or 12,000 in the area.
Okay. So you say a significant increase. Are these like Meals on Wheels? Are they
Yeah.
similar to that, right?
Yeah, so say here in Canton, they have a site they can go and eat at. The transportation will take people there if they need it.
Okay.
And they also do meal delivery. If someone does not want to leave their home, they can call in and order that meal and have it delivered directly to their door. That's allowing our residents, a good meal every day.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask was how many of our areas for transportation are you serving right now? Is it like,
Right now, we have 2 sites that are right in the county. So we do have a Beersford area transit and we have the Canton Transit. Together, they are reaching out across the county. They're not just segregated to that specific city. So our goal as the agency, we have one in Parker, we have one in Viborg. Between all of those transits, we're hoping to reach anybody. If Canton Transit's not available, they have the opportunity to call Parker, see if they're available to come in and cover that shift. Beersford's doing the same thing, reaching out and using each other as partners to make sure those rides are getting taken.
and that transportation, just for the sake of discussion, does that cover trips to like Sioux Falls or?
Anybody within the community can ride. So
Okay.
it's open to the general public and we can go just about anywhere at a low cost rate.
Is the doctor appointments covered or not?
It depends. We are a Medicaid provider, so we can bill Medicaid. We are not a Medicare provider, so that's where we look into the low-cost rates that we have available. When you look into some similar services, they're running at $2 to $5 a mile. We are still trying to keep our cost at about 60 cents a mile for seniors and the general public. But we do have options because of some of our funders that we are able to help offset some of those long distance costs for some of the clients if they meet qualifications and if they are in need for that help.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you see, since ROC is an agency, do you see any other areas that you may want to look at for weatherization, situations for low to moderate income families that are unable to upgrade their heating system or roofs or anything? Do you see anything like that in your future?
I believe we do weatherization in this area. So it is available, and that's all done through application of low-income families. They can do that directly on our website, or they can call into any of our ROC's offices and be directed for that weatherization. We don't do any of our community services block grants in this area. That's handled, I believe, out of Minnehaha County by ICAP.
It is, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What's next, Paul?
I think now we'll just go in order of what I have there. I think next is Children's Home.
Which one?
Children's Home. Children's Inn. It should be the next tab right after the outside agencies.
Children's Home.
Yep.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Clark. I'm the CFO for Children's Home Society.
Yes,
we-
please speak into the mic.
Sorry, my voice does not
Okay,
carry.
thank you.
The Children's Home Society has the Children's Home Shelter for Family Safety as a program. We are the only domestic violence shelter in the 5 counties. So we do serve residents of Lincoln County. In 2022, we opened a new facility that was 3 times the size of our original property, and we saw a 20% increase in overall shelter intakes and a 48% increase in shelter days.
What, 48% in what?
Shelter days. So our capacity went from a 40-bed facility to a 96-bed facility, and unfortunately, in 2024, we had to add 12 more beds. So the need is great. We have done a good job of keeping our costs down. I did say we have 3 times the amount of shelter, 48% increase in shelter days, but we were able to only increase our full-time employees by 27%, and our operating costs overall went up 37%. So our application we've submitted, we are requesting a 20% increase, which is from the 12,500 to the 15,000. We are starting with all of our programs and all of our supporters and all of the counties that we serve and requesting increases of 20%, and we'll continue to do so because currently we have to fundraise for 70% of our operating costs. There aren't good long-term sustainable funding sources for domestic violence shelters, and considering we're the only one in the 5-county area, it makes it difficult for us to sustain that funding. We do have to use general operating funds from the society as a whole or unrestricted fundraising that we do annually to support the shelter, and you can see that from the deficit from the budget.
Just in your request, does your request take into consideration the funds that you'd get through the domestic abuse fund?
Meaning VOCA?
I don't know what the acronym is.
Yes, we get federal funds.
No, that's,
No.
what we happen
Oh.
is, when you get the court fees, we
Yes.
send you twice a
Yes.
year the domestic abuse funds.
No, the request does not include that. That would be included in the other county fees because we have, again, the 5 counties, and they do send us those funds for the marriage fees.
So you have or haven't taken them into consideration already in your budget requests?
They are included in the other county fees line item.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I will, having the privilege to serve on this board, when the comment is made that sustaining itself has to come from fundraising activities outside of what support that they may get, is a challenging situation. Unless you have actually been part of it, and you take a new facility and you think you have growth for years, and you fill that thing up in a matter of months, you begin to say, the need is there. And when you see the families that come, and you see the desperate situations that they have to face, suddenly, I know that money is money. But on the other hand, to be able to address that with the amount of requests they have seems like a good investment, because we don't turn people away. And it's there. It's part of our DNA. It's part of our society today, that unfortunately you have families and domestic abuse, and you have all kinds of issues. And most of these are kids. I mean, I want to emphasize that. Most of these are young children who are traumatized by their living condition. And when you put them in a safe facility, as in the Children's Home has provided for them, it gives them some sense of security. And to me, this is money very well spent on that. So I'm going to be in full support for their request.
Okay, any other comments you'd like to make? And you provide services throughout the county, correct? Or
Correct.
so you, Canton, Lennox, Beersford?
Yes, and we have within our application, we have the number of shelter days for Lincoln County.
All right.
And it costs us about $153 a day to provide support. So that calculates to about $215,000 worth of support that we're providing for Lincoln County residents.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I guess the next one then is the Compass Center, is that correct? Yep. All right. Hi, state your name and
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Michelle Trent. I'm the executive director at the Compass Center, in Sioux Falls. And thank you so much for having us out. Thank you so much for continuing to support the agency and the work that we do. I'm so glad that Shelter for Family Safety and Children's Home Society was able to present prior to me. I think the continued support of both organizations is so tremendous. I'm going to focus specifically on sexual violence and the projects that we are tackling in relation to sexual violence. One thing you will note is that we have a very large request this year, and that reflects the very large need that we have for sexual assault services in our state. South Dakota is currently number 3 in the nation for sexual assault per capita. Lincoln County is the 4th county in the state for sexual assault per capita based upon law enforcement reports. As the only rape crisis center in the state of South Dakota, that is a considerable charge for us to be able to work with victims of violence. One of the things in the most recent report in 2022 that was highlighted related to sexual violence from the Department of Health here in South Dakota is that youth ages 14 to 23 were more likely to be both victim and perpetrator of violence. And so that represents a huge opportunity for us organizationally and for us as a county and as a state to really be able to tackle this problem and to really think about sexual violence ending in our state in the next 10 to 15 years as these children grow older. And so in response to that, we've started 2 programs, the first being our Little Navigators program. Our Little Navigators program is in 2 child care centers, one of them in Lincoln County. So we provide mental health services and early intervention services for children at MB South and provide services both for the child care center and for individual children and families. So for the child care center, as you know, we're also in the middle of a child care crisis. And so for the child care center, we provide support to them in dealing with children who are experiencing difficulties. That might be children who are already victims of violence or children that are high risk being victims of violence. We know that those children are at high risk of being terminated from their child care center. And if you are terminated from your child care center, speaking both as a mom and as an executive director, you cannot find another placement for your child. And so really working with these children that have already been victimized or are at risk for victimization. That program has served hundreds of kids in our community at MB South. Specifically, we've provided 52 weeks of social skills intervention support for all of the preschool age children. And so they're receiving education about healthy boundaries and support and the teachers being able to navigate the difficulties in those classrooms. And then we also provide individual services to them as well. And then our next program is brand new. It's called Youth Voices in Prevention. We started that this year. That program is very much focused on youth, middle school and high school youth being active participants in solving violence. We know that youth need to be engaged in the fight. That youth, that statistic that tells us that they are more likely to be both perpetrator and victim is an alarming statistic. And so we know that that means that as a community and as a state that we need to step up for those youth. So the Youth Voices in Prevention program focuses on teaching youth bystander intervention. So we know that youth talk to each other and they generally know what's going on. We had a situation in a different county where there was youth that were trafficking other youth. And when we did an intervention after that was found out, we found out that 30% of that school, the rest of those kids in that school, knew what was happening, but didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do, and so they did nothing. And that tells us that we have a big issue in needing to support those folks. You'll also see that we've had a drastic increase in the last 18 months of people in positions of power abusing individuals. We've had therapists, we've had children therapists, we've had coaches, we've had teachers, we've had all sorts of pieces. And so the other thing we know there is that youth know what's happening. They're telling other youth what's happening, and those youth don't know what to do. So Youth Voices in Prevention is really aimed at actually tackling sexual violence. Those two services, I think, are fundamentally needed in our community. They, as we think about growth, and I've sat here in this meeting thinking about the way in which Lincoln County is growing, one of the things that also comes with growth is increase in violence. We know that increase in sexual violence, increase in domestic violence is already happening and will continue to happen until we are able to tackle it. So these programs are really designed to tackle those pieces. And so that accounts for the large requests that we're making from you all to really make an investment in those youth. And our goal is within the next 15 years to end sexual violence, which is a really large task to think about, but it's possible when we involve our youth. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You know, Michelle, whenever you start talking about all the services, and in case any of you haven't ever been to the Compass Center, you should be, because you see the collateral damage of what's going on. And I'm just speaking as myself as a commissioner. While we look at your money requests that goes to fund your services and that of others, regardless of where it is, when you start comparing that and you compare the price of sending one juvenile to the detention center for one day, the cost to the county, it becomes minuscule. So we either invest in the front end for some kind of preventative situation, or on the other end, we got remediation, which is extremely costly, and it's a little late in the game for that. So, I mean, I understand that we got budget situations, and we're going to have money requests, yes. But is that not a good idea to try to invest in the front end as opposed to the back end?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the fundamental shift I would love to see our state make, is we spend a lot of money on prosecution. Even thinking about prosecution rates and looking at your state's attorney budget, you're spending a lot of money to incarcerate, to prosecute, to do all of those things. And that's only the tip of the iceberg, because we also know things like domestic violence, sexual assault are very underreported. And so really focusing on investing in prevention, I think, is such a huge piece. There's a CDC estimate that for every sexual assault in our nation, the cost lifetime is $122,000. So even if you had 20 assaults happen in Lincoln County this year, which you will have more than 20 sexual assaults that happen this year in Lincoln County. You're talking of millions of dollars in long-term costs for the community and for that victim. So that is taking into account prosecution, jail, all of the things that go into combating sexual violence. And so it really is an investment in where are we going to invest and how do we support youth to be able to stand up to their peers and say this is not acceptable and support their peers so that their peers are able to find access to the services that they need.
Anything with early childhood and prevention. Yeah. You double your funds versus at the tail end, what it costs when you go that route.
Yeah, we've seen a dramatic results of our Little Navigators program. We have some really compelling numbers. I'm happy to send those to the commission of just across the board. Of course, we're not doing it just in Lincoln County, but Little Navigators has been tremendous in helping to intervene with our preschoolers, 3 to 5 year old, and people often will be like, what is the Compass Center doing with 3 to 5 year olds? But the reality is if we're going to prevent violence, it starts as young as 3, because these kiddos are seeing violence in their homes. And so to combat that and to help support that family and to support that child takes intervention at a very young age.
All right, thank you.
Does the Compass Center do anything with, in regards to opioids?
We do not, although one of the conversations with our Youth VIP project, there are 35 community partners that are signed on to that project, including several chemical dependency organizations. And so really figuring out how do we tackle those pieces together. We're working in silos right now, and so Youth VIP is a very exciting program for us because it's bringing together those 35 organizations. Happy to send the MOU over to you all if you'd like to see that.
Would you do that? Would you
yeah.
at least send it to me? Because
Yeah.
I have opioid funding that I need to disperse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really looking at, violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in combination with all different forms of things, and so really working together. I'm happy to send that over and focus on those pieces.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I believe our next one, Lifescape, is that correct? Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
State
Chair,
your
Commission.
name, please.
I'm Jessica Wells, and I am with the Lifescape Foundation. All right, so we are requesting an increase, just familiarizing you with our services. We have been in the area since 1952, serving children and adults with varied disabilities, over 700 diagnoses we treat every year. That is in our children's services. We have about 8 service lines that individuals from Lincoln County access within our service area. Our specialty pediatric rehab hospital is 18-bed. Children that are recovering from surgeries may be served at Avera or Sanford, can't quite go home, do that recovery in our hospital area, relearning how to walk, how to button, how to feed themselves, all those basic skills. We have a children's residential facility in Sioux Falls, also supporting children primarily with challenging behaviors. This is an area that continues to grow. There are wait lists. We have about 150 children that live in our facility right now. That wait list is at least a dozen children at this time, and they are able to receive residential care and a specialty school education while they are with us. We also have children with complex medical needs, so those that are unable to be cared for in their home community. Then once they age out of children's services at 21, they are able to, we are one of 19 community support providers in the state that provide adult services. We have residential living. We have 38 homes in Sioux Falls. Hopefully you don't recognize them. We just opened a new one in Harrisburg. So 8 individuals are able to live in that community. We help support them in independent living, and then they also have supported employment and day services for adults. In Lincoln County, we support 275 individuals. Those would be children in our residential program, outpatient, outreach, and adult services. Our increase that we are asking is about $16,812 over last year. We did not request an increase last year. Our increase is primarily based on an increase in just being able to do business and maintain those services, and then also a goal to decrease those wait lists. You talked earlier, some of the increases in insurance costs alone. We saw a 71% increase in our property liability and cybersecurity increases this year. That's over $900,000 increase in those insurance areas. And then maintaining a well-trained caring staff is important as well. So most of our increases that we received from the state this last year, they are our primary funder. Over 64% of our revenue does come from the Medicaid, and then also about 18% comes through the school districts, which is also through the Medicaid system with the federal government. So heavily dependent on government agencies for our funding. The state recognized that the cost to do business and provide the services that we do, that was increasing, and we had not received an adequate increase for many, many years. And we hope that we are able to continue maintaining the services and decrease the wait lists in our county. Any questions, I guess?
Counselor, you said your insurance costs went up 71%.
They predominantly in our liability is
liability.
the area, and then cybersecurity held fairly stable, although that risk continues to increase dramatically being a healthcare provider. They have been targets for hacks. We do have an agreement with Dakota State University that they regularly, we utilize their expertise, that they do keep us on our toes and keep us very secure, which has helped keep those insurance costs down. But the liability with the population that we support, we've seen an increase in the federal OSHA departments coming in. Workplace violence is services under social services are seeing an increase, magnifying glass in that area. And while our safety and well-being of our people we support is important, so is the safety and well-being of our staff. So we have increased a lot of measures to ensure the safety of our staff while supporting children and adults that could not be supported in any other facility in our state outside of potentially Redfield, the state school.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think next on the schedule was the link, but they were gonna do, attend via phone. I think we're gonna postpone that and have them come in person.
Okay.
So, what's the next one? Sorry, I just.
Lennox
looked at-
Library?
Yeah, Lennox
Okay.
Library.
Good morning, Commissioner, chairs. My name is Audra Bowler, and I'm the director of the Lennox Community Library over in Lennox. We have not seen an increase in our line item budget from the county forever. We got the forms this spring, filled them out and sent them over. Looking at our numbers, we have not recently, but we are very heavily concentrated within the western side of the county of Lincoln County. It's one of the only libraries over in that area that is full-time, 40-plus hours a week that we do service. And just this year, this year alone, we have seen about a 2.75 registration in library cards. So we get about almost 3 new patrons a day since the 1st of January this year. Also, since 2020, we've also seen about a 25% increase in our checkouts. So at this time, I did ask, we normally would get 6,000. I did ask to increase to 12. But any increase would be helpful. Any questions?
When is the last time? 6,000. I think we started about 20 years ago with 5,000. That's what we did. I remember, we gave $5,000 to the city of Lenox and Canton and then $5,000. So it's gone up $1,000 over 24 years.
Yeah.
That's
That's not,
of that $12,000 that you're requesting.
yes.
How much of
gonna
that
ask that.
represents your overall budget, would you guess?
I would say probably about 5%. Yeah, I was gonna say about a fourth, 5%.
Has the city provided any indication of any funding that they're going to provide for next year?
They do provide supplemental funding
Do
throughout
you
the
know
years.
what that will be?
We're working on that budget right now. Nate's with me today.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nate Vanderplat, City Administrator. Generally speaking, the Lenox Library, in terms of our general fund, is budgeted about $100,000 every year. So of that, just a little over 100, probably 105. I would expect that to be fairly similar next year.
And that's from the city is $100,000 plus?
Correct. Auditor's pretty solid at getting grants as well, so, when those are received, that money comes into the general fund and those expenses go up accordingly, of course. But from the general fund, we plan on approximately $105,000.
In your library, what other services besides, if you want to go back in history, the Dewey Decimal System, you remember that thing? What other services do you provide in the library? I mean, for overall?
Overall, we've got public computers for patrons to come in that they do use if they don't have computers at home or if they need to do printing services. We also offer story time throughout the school year. We have adult programming in regards to a monthly book club that we host. That hosts also through the school year. During the school year, we also have several different after-school programs such as Lego Club, robotics. We have movie days where they get out early from school. We have movie days. We also incorporated a senior matinee day. The third Tuesday of every month, we have a matinee day for adults to come in if they wish to watch a movie with us through our movie licensing program. During the summertime, we've had a very busy summer. We started our summer reading program on the 27th of May, right after Memorial Day, or the day of Memorial Day. This year, we have about 300 kids that have signed up for that program to record their minutes in reading. And I think as of yesterday, we were right at about 60,000 minutes last year. We were 5 minutes short of 115,000 minutes read. We bring in performers. I try to collaborate with other libraries in the area to get discounts on the performers that come in, anywhere from musicians to magicians, storytellers, the Zoomobile, outdoor campus, a whole different variety of things. In addition, we also then offer crafts and arts throughout the summer as well for these families that they can come in and utilize the library. And in the last 4 years, I've extended our STEM program, which is just a cabinet that we have with different activities for the kids to come in and hang out with after school or weekends or whatever. We also incorporated a children's area, which has really sparked a lot of our patrons that have the smaller children. We've got a play area in there for them with children's books and all sorts of different things. So it's not, libraries aren't just for books anymore. They're social gatherings and a safe place to be.
I know in visiting with the senior citizens the other evening, they talked about their trips to the Lenox City Library.
Yes, they enjoy movie day, especially when I provide popcorn.
So, yeah, it's definitely used by all ages.
Yes, it is. It's used by all ages.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. It was
Thank
very
you.
nice. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks.
I think the next one is Harrisburg Library.
Yes, you're correct.
Hello and good morning. My name is Cheyenne Shantos. I'm with the Harrisburg Community Library. I will give you kind of a brief rundown. I have a very similar story to Lenox. Very similar story in that we have been receiving, for as long as I know, that $5,000. At least I know from the past 5 years, that's what we've received. I believe that's always been what we've received from Lincoln County. So we have asked to make that can match with Lennox at the $12,000 mark. Kind of some of the reasons for that increase. So I started in November of this last year. I'm the first full-time director that our library has ever had, the first full-time employee our library has ever had, and then we've also gained another full-time employee. So this is the first time we've ever had 2 full-time employees, or really any full-time employees at all. As we've also discussed today, or you've all discussed today, very exciting things happening in Harrisburg in that we are growing. And so part of that new space at Liberty, which will then be renamed Heritage, we are also going to be receiving a larger space. So we currently are in Liberty, but we will move to where their school library is. And then we will increase our space by about 3 times the space that we currently have. So hoping to.
What did you say you were moving to?
We're moving into where the school library currently is in Liberty. So.
In Liberty?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're still in, we are in Liberty right now, but we are in the old high school library. So, yeah, so we'll increase that space. We are also hoping to increase our services. We've already doubled our programs this year from last year, again, because we finally have full-time employees. And then we've just kind of seen an increase in need for space. None of us are unfamiliar with South Dakota weather. We all have experienced the kind of highs and lows of South Dakota weather. And so as we've experienced lots of snow or rain or anything like that, we've seen an increase in especially young families coming to the library just with the need for space. So I also do have a copy of our trends from the last year and then the last 5 years. I'm happy to give this copy, but then also send that out if you want an electronic version. So, any questions or anything?
Yeah, is Liberty the school they're going to be closing?
Yes, so they are building what will be a new Liberty, so it'll also be called Liberty, but yep.
Which is south
Yes,
of
yep.
the middle school, South Middle School.
Yep, it'll be just south
So
of South.
that's where you will be then as well?
We will actually be in what is currently Liberty, so, yep.
Okay,
I know, it's a little confusing because they all have the
Okay.
same name.
all right. And most of the people that use your services are children or senior citizens? or
Sure.
what?
We have previously mostly been viewed as a youth or children's library by the community, partially because we are located in a school. We aren't used by the school. They have a separate library, but that was public perception. And we have seen an increase each month in our adult usage as well, particularly seniors. So where we have seen at least 100 visits more per month in our adult usage every month this year.
Yeah.
But certainly lots of families. I think the median age in Harrisburg is like 29 or 30, so definitely a lot of young people too.
All right. Any questions?
I got one question. I was looking at your budget.
Yes.
Is the rent cost, do they charge you rent?
Yes, yep, the school does charge us sort of a low rent fee. Yep, so
$1,000?
No, 3,000.
3,000, yep.
Yes.
Currently, that is because we rent from the school. Next year, that likely will change. We just kind of kept it as it was because we were unsure what this year would look like. Or this next year would look like, I should say.
So you won't have that expense?
We should not have that expense next year, nope. That can be changed, absolutely.
All right.
Good catch.
Okay.
That's all, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do we have anyone left?
Nope, just the link and we'll get them. I think at this point now, going forward, it's kind of up to you guys as a board what you want to do. On the 23rd, we can discuss, you guys can discuss and adopt the provisional budget. I believe that's the way it normally goes, right, Jerry? Is they just need to adopt it. if you want to make any changes there, can they make any changes on that day?
So what will happen is you'll adopt a provisional budget, we will advertise it, we'll have the hearing on September. You can have additional meetings between now and September, and any significant changes then would have to be re-advertised after the hearing. Between the hearing and the actual adoption.
So I guess we can just adopt next week, the provisional agenda, and then, like Sherry, sorry, the provisional budget, thank you. And then we'll put together the advertisement and notice, and have that hearing on, I believe the day is September 6th.
So what you can do is we can pull all the documents together now, we can send them out to you to review between now and the 23rd to see if everything's with the changes that have been made so far through it. And then on the 23rd, you'll have to adopt the provisional budget. It's only for advertising, it's not official. September 6th, you'll have your hearing, and then September 30th, we'll have to adopt the final budget. So,
But it seems like once we do a preliminary budget, not a whole lot of change takes place, so maybe we need to talk about some of these things before.
well, we can do another full budget session, because I don't think you've seen it in an open session in full. So I think on the 23rd, we do a full budget session, talk about everything in whole, instead of just piece
What do you
marketing.
think, Commissioner Landine?
I'm fine with waiting and doing it on the 23rd.
Okay, that's,
I mean, if there's a consensus that we need to have some kind of special meeting, we certainly can do that. But scheduling is gonna be tough between now and then.
yeah, it's up to you guys, and I think that it's definitely feasible to do it on the 23rd as well.
Because again, it's only authorizing publication of the provisional budget, nothing is set in stone. So you can change it 1,700 times between now and September 6th.
What are your thoughts, Commissioner Smith?
I think 23rd actually will be.
23rd of July.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
Budgets are budgets, they're guidelines as you have, and it's a fluid document. So, it's not like it's etched in stone, like it's not changeable, and as our auditor said, I don't know how many other changes we need to make, but we need to get a preliminary budget, and what I liked about it, it gives you a guideline or a post to work from, and then you don't adopt your final budget until September. So you got all kinds of time to wiggle around, and if you need to manipulate, or something changes, it's all kinds of stuff, but the preliminary budget is just something to get on record.
Provisional budget.
Provisional, excuse me, whatever.
No, not whatever, you have
Yeah.
to use the right word.
Provisional, excuse me, has to be exact.
Well, thank you, guys. We'll plan on doing that then,
Yes.
and we won't worry about the special.
Did Drew around, I thought he said we had an issue, talk about an executive session?
He's just right out here.
Could you,
Drew, you want to do executive? Oh, here, okay.
oh, you don't, okay, all right. We don't have an executive session, issues?
Not for legal, no.
Okay, all right. With that being said, I guess, we're ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. A motion by Landine, second by Schmidt to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We
Thanks,
are adjourned.
everybody.
We're done.